Well, this is Speaking Llama, a Survivor podcast. We are excited and also devastated to be here with the latest castaway voted out of Titans versus Rebels. My personal winner pick. We've got Alex on the
Oh,
podcast. Alex, what's going on, man?
Al-
How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Alex. And I'm glad to hear that you're disappointed. There's a few fans that are. There's a few fans that aren't as well. So, but I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited. And it's nice. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, yeah, definitely disappointed, but excited to kind of dive into different parts of your game. Uh, we, I think first I want to jump in just last night's episode. Let's jump straight in. You came back from this crazy tribal council after Raymond pulls off this big move with the advantage. One, I mean, what was your response? And then two, was there any backlash on Raymond after pulling that move?
My initial response was like devastation. I just like finally played the idol and saved, well, not really said necessarily saved Valeria, but I had cemented my relationship with her and Mark really, really well. And I was feeling like finally, I've got a really good home. Like this is gonna be sick. We're just gonna move forward now. It's gonna be hunky dory. And then he pulled off that, and I was absolutely devastated at the time. In the moment as well, I mean, everyone's got their suspicions with something going on, but I truly didn't think that there was going to be that played up, especially after the Scott went home with the mental health issues. I was like, I don't think he's going to play this up, but I guess that is Survivor and it is a brutal game, and we've only got ourselves to blame. It's funny, like normally when something seems a bit fishy, there's always I know that Eileen did it sometime in the season where you'll put one vote somewhere else just to cover off any bases if there's an idol or something. And it's just crazy that nobody did that. It would have been amazing if somebody had, because that would have changed the game drastically. But yeah, I think devastation is the word to use, Alex. When Valeria went home, and then from there, it's impossible to say to Raymond like you shouldn't have done that because you're just going to cost yourself votes if you get through to the end of the game. If you're getting up people from there on out, so you've got to consider that. But at the time, yeah, it was brutal.
Absolutely. Well, one thing I noticed to your amazing reward challenge performance this season. Pretty incredible. Some great moments, especially in last night's episode. I thought it was hilarious and also a genius move to not win it right away, fill up marks, then go and talk to him, about who to
Yeah.
bring. And I know I know you posted, I think on Instagram today, like, hey, yeah, I should have brought who I brought. So in the
Yeah.
moment, what was your reasoning behind bringing was it Kirby, Rihanna, and Caroline on that run in?
Caroline. Yeah, it was my biggest mistake in the game, and I made a few of them. And looking back on it, just when I got back after the immunity challenge back to the beach, I immediately knew that it was the wrong decision. In the moment though, and it's so hard to yeah, it's so hard to make these decisions on the fly. I went and talked to Mark, and Mark and I had already spoken about not bringing him. We had said if either of us
Mhm.
win this next challenge, we go separately and we keep tabs on everyone else. And looking back on that, I should have just brought all the boys. I really should have just had a bit of fun with it and like got everyone together. So that played on my mind a little bit. And I knew that Mark is he's an ex-diplomat. So like I knew that he's really good at getting people on side. I thought, all right, if I leave Ferris and Ray back at camp with him. We'll get him on board. But then when I came back, I was just convinced that Ferris and Ray weren't with us. They would just feed me what I wanted to hear. And that's when you saw a spiral. I just started to feel like I've been out here for 39 days, man. I was like, this is it. I'm gone. I was just feeling gutted. I just couldn't see. And then we got like little glimmers of this hope for here and there. And then Caroline went off a kitty and I just fell again. I was like, nah, we're done. It was brutal, man. So I thought, okay, we'll just go out with guns blazing. Just ruin Kirby.
I love it. Okay, well, I mean, 39 days, that's actually it used to be how long US Survivor was to win.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's a win right there, but
Massive. Yeah.
for sure. Well, and two, let's jump into tribal then. So, JLP kind of mentioned it even at tribal on the episode of like, was this strong arming everyone, or was it just bringing truth to light when you're calling out Kirby, calling out Ferris, calling out Caroline? So, for you in the moment, what was your intention behind doing that?
I think it was some form of a play. It definitely wasn't like the most strategic play, and I think there was a lot of emotion behind it. You got to think, man, like you're tired, you're hungry, and you're just exhausted, and you're feeling like there's no hope. You're all down and out. And I guess, yeah, I was trying something. People go the whisper sort of strategy. I could have tried that with Mark and then tried to get someone aside, but that's not really who I am. I'm sort of like I seek the truth. I sort of like shed light on the truth, and I tried to bring that up. And yeah, I think Kirby got caught in the crosshairs there, unfortunately. Nothing bad to say about any of them as people, and I was probably a little harsh on Caroline as well. She has played better than I was assuming at the time. But yeah, that was just the avenue that we took, Alex, and it was
Well,
entertaining if nothing else.
exactly. If you're gonna go out, you might as well have some fun with it. That's
Yeah.
that's what I think. So with that, did you know, or who did you think was voting with you? Because it kind of looked like Carolyn might have been voting with you. Did you think Ferris and Ray were voting with you? Like, what were you thinking at that point?
I knew Mark was, and I knew Mark wouldn't deviate, but I was not convinced on anyone else. In fact, I wasn't not convinced. I was sure that none of them were. Ferris needed Kirby. Like there was no way he was going to vote Kirby. Ray was never going to vote against Ferris again. And as soon as Caroline had that conversation with me, Caroline's thinking longevity. So she needs to understand what's Ferris doing. If Ferris is on, then she might have been on, but like Ferris wasn't on, and it was clear to me anyway. You don't really see it on the show, but it was like being there. You pick up on things that you don't pick up on through watching a show. So I sort of knew heading into tribal that I was my head on the chopping block, and that was that.
Well, and one person in particular, especially this past episode, but a few episodes, you and Kirby have kind of gone at it a little bit at these tribal councils. Fun to watch. Can you walk us through? Can you walk us through your strategic relationship with Kirby, in particular post merge? But really, if you want to go as far back to the beginning, you can. I don't know what's all
Yeah.
relevant.
Well, it does start at the beginning. She obviously I actually thought we were in an alliance at the start, and then because she had voted with me, I didn't. I was blind to that. I didn't know. And then she sees me as the floater between the Ferris alliance and her alliance with Scott. And because we never actually got to vote, she never actually got to see. But I was cemented with Ferris. I had said to her I was voting with you, and we were moving forward together. And then unfortunately, tries what happened. I didn't end up with those guys. But Kirby only saw me sitting in the middle of those two alliances. If I didn't have the idol when we got to merge, things may have been different again. But because I did, Kirby's got this thing with idol. She just hates them being in play. She doesn't ever want to go and look for one, but she just doesn't like them being in play. So she was just flushing it. She's trying to flush it the entire time, which is a good 5 tribals. I think 4 or 5 tribals. I just kept hearing my name. And it was all like bullshit. Most of the time I was like, nah, sniff this out. This isn't, she's not actually going to put me down. Because Ferris wasn't willing to put me down at that point because of working with him. And then she was wanting to still be on Ferris's good side. But then eventually, once, yeah, there would have been too much emotion and too much, I think, resentment built from that whole idol thing and the floating thing before that she just wasn't willing to even have a conversation. She would literally, it was like that. She would run away from me. Like I'd come up and try and have a conversation, and she would just scurry off. But to her credit, Kirby knew her game plan and she sticks to it. And I think that it's been working for her so far. And she gave me a call last night after the episode, which was really sweet. As a human being, she's an incredible person. So yeah, it's really nice.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'm curious too. As a player, you're trying to strategize with someone, and they are not even speaking to you, and they make it known. I mean, what do you do in response? How do you go talk to other people about that? Do you complain about it? Do you keep trying? Like, what was your move at that point?
Well, I think I just said it at one point. I said, let's just put our knight's armor and start swinging. That's pretty much exactly what we did. It's some of the situations though, Alex, are so awkward. Like there's been a few where I think it was one where Kelly was standing right next to our group and we were talking about her. I was just like, what do you do, man? It's like some of them are awkward. But I mean, you've got to keep trying. This game, you have to constantly be willing to pivot. It's always going to adapt. And I think that if Kirby had maybe just kept her eyes open, even if in her mind she's not willing to work, say that she is, and then like tell me what I want to hear. That's what Ferris did really well. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to tell him. Jaden did it really well as well. Just kept saying to people, yeah, cool man, sounds great, sounds great. And then they didn't know they're none the wiser. But Kirby, she's playing differently, and it's working for her though. So
Yep.
kudos to her.
Yep. And that's the point, right? It works. For her,
Yeah.
at least at this point, it has worked for her.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. She's gonna
I
have
love it.
rough time from now, I reckon, after last tribal council.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, you,
People
you
are
you
gonna
went
put
out
the
in a
time.
blaze of glory. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm curious about too, a few episodes ago, I think it was after the Jaden vote. You were working with the OG Rebels, and then you kind of decided, hey, I'm going to work with the OG Titans now. Caroline,
Mm.
Kitty, Mark, Valeria. What we saw, the kind of the storyline was, you were left out of a conversation at the well, and that's why you kind of went to the other lines. Is that what
Yep.
happened, or what was going on? What made you decide to kind of move
That's
to
a
the
good
other side?
question. It's a good question. So I said a couple times like I felt like the third wheel in that relationship. And what didn't make sense to me was that when I'd heard all the stories that when Garrick went out and Ferris, all he wanted was revenge for his alliance. And then this time around, Eileen got voted out and no, he didn't care. It didn't bother him at all. And I said this at the next tribal council. They didn't put it in the show, but I said to him, I said, I think I would be amazed if you didn't know about the Eileen vote yesterday because he was having so many conversations with Kirby. So I'm sitting there going, oh, you didn't care that one of us just got voted out. You're now having all these conversations with them, Jade and Rihanna Kirby at the well, and you're not inviting me. That looks really bad. And then I just thought, well, yes, I've been in that alliance, but it's time to find a new one. I didn't feel like I just knew that I was on the back burner of that alliance. And if it came down to it, I'm gone, especially because I was probably more of a physical threat moving forward. They would have just cut me at any time. So I was like, right, let's move. And we went in with Mark. I already had some form of a relationship with Mark, and
Mhm.
we got on really well as people. Like the game is one thing, people are another, and we just bonded like over life, which was really really nice. So I could easily talk to Mark, and because he had hooks with Valeria, I was like, let's just play here. I did know for a fact that Kitty wasn't with us
Hmm.
on that Jaden vote.
Yeah.
And I said that to Mark, and there was a conversation as well, which I was really hoping we made the edit because I said, mate, I don't think she's with us. I know she's not with us. I saw them having conversations with her and Ree, and it wasn't just like her telling them what they wanted to hear. She's with them. And he's like, nah, she's just feeding them what they want to hear. So, all right, no worries. And then we're telling all the plans, and Kitty's right there, and I'm just going, are we saying this, man? And then fair enough, after when we got back to camp, I said to Mark, it's like, I bloody told you. Kitty just spilled the beans. And I was like, I bloody told you. He's like, yeah, you told her. So yeah, they didn't show you that, but yeah, I was switched on with that one.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so one thing kind of related to that, kind of moving different alliances, stuff like that. You were referred to as a floater in the game a couple different times. What'd you think of it? Being called that floater. What was your response?
I think it's a fair assumption. I think if anyone in the game isn't floating somewhere between alliances, then
Mhm.
you can't expect to just have the same people on your team the entire way through the game. It doesn't work. But Kirby's trying to come up with this, oh, I'm flexible and you're floating. Well, it just didn't make sense to me. And it just sounded like she was just trying to spin it to suit her. But she's floating. Yes, she's got ride or die. And I
Yeah.
never found that. My ride or die, you could argue, got voted out at the very first tribal council.
Yeah.
But I never found another ride or die. But she's still floating between, she was working with Kelly, then she was working with Ferris. That like, and yeah, it was just frustrating to see um, her trying to babble on about the differences between them. And then I just loved calling them both out, like Ferris and her as well. I was like, you guys just talking shit, eh? Like, just shut up, man. You're all doing the same stuff. We're just playing a game. But yeah, unfortunately, they got me in the end, and I didn't get the satisfaction of voting them out.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I almost we're both named Alex. I almost brought some pool floaties into the interview today so we can both be floaters today too. But left
That
those
would have been
outside. It is
hilarious.
it.
You definitely should have.
So
No.
all right, you kind of mentioned your ride or die. You kind of never found that. And that was actually one of my questions for you next of like, who was your closest ally over the course of the season? Because we saw all these like really close pairs, but it felt like you didn't
Mm.
have that, both in the swap as well as the merge.
No, no. It's coming down to it, which seems ridiculous. It'd have to be marked towards the end. Um, but I never really did find it. If I'm honest, I had
Mhm.
really good conversations with Eden, and Eden and I had agreed to not necessarily be in the same alliance, just constantly keep each other's names out of the conversations. Um, but definitely wasn't a ride or die. And yeah, I guess when it comes down to it, it was Mark at the end, but only for a split second. His girl was definitely Valeria,
Yeah. Yep. No, that's
which
fair.
made it makes the game hard when you don't have that, which I've realized now.
Absolutely. Well, I even noticed this past episode, the final eight, it looked like there were three really tight pairs, and then you and Mark kind of pairing
Yeah,
up together. And
yeah,
so,
just because we had to.
right, right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Alex, let's change time. Let's say you're still in the game. You make it past this vote out. What was your ideal path to the end? And then, did you have a pitch to win that 500,000 at the end at that point in the game?
Because of the Kirby feud that I was having, the pitch would have been getting out the biggest player in the game.
Mhm.
I needed to eliminate her. I needed to be on my terms. So that was certainly how I wanted to do it. I think playing this game, you're obviously seeing an hour on TV, but it's days between each episode, and there's so much thinking, so much planning, so much wondering what could be, what could have been, and it's almost like you have to be patient. You obviously don't want to get caught out and get taken out too early before anyone else. But at the same time, you need to wait. You need to be mindful of when the right time is to get someone out. And I just probably pulled the trigger a little bit too early. But yeah, ideally, I played the idol for Valeria. She doesn't get voted out by Raymond the next tribal council.
Mhm.
Mark, me, and Val build a really close relationship, and we start, ticking off some of the couples and getting close towards the end, and then hopefully kill a Kirby and yeah, put that on the resume.
Yeah, that's good. Would you want to sit next to like Mark or Val, or is there someone else you would want to sit next to in the final three, final two, something like that?
Um, at the time, I was thinking that I knew that I could beat like Caroline in all the challenges, and I
Mhm.
think that I could have made a case. Obviously, if I'd pulled off one of the moves towards the end of the game, I would have made a case to beating her, I think. But obviously, there was a lot that I didn't see at Caroline's game that I'm seeing now, which I'm just quite impressed with actually. But that was the thought process at the time. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Alex, I feel like from my perspective, at least some of the funniest moments were coming from you this season.
Yes.
Your ass is jealous that your mouth is talking so much shit. I loved it. On our podcast, you're my winner pick. Caleb, he isn't here today, but I have vowed to say that in every recap episode we do towards him. And it's worked so far.
Yes.
So thank you for that, just in general.
No
Um,
worries.
did you plan that ahead of time? Was that like
Yeah.
oh, perfect. How
Yeah.
long,
No,
how long were you holding
I
on to that
was
phrase?
just walking into tribal. I planned to bring up in front of Eileen at the jury seats that I think that Ferris was I knew about the boat.
Mhm.
So I was like thinking, and I thought of a line. I was like, this is gonna be great. Like he's gonna start babbling, and and then I'm just gonna call it out. And like it rolled off the tongue so well, and I was just very happy watching it back. It was nice.
So good. So good. Quote of the season for sure. Um,
Yeah, thanks, man.
the other funny moment, it was you and Kelly, and your relationship, most of the game. Uh, I think JLP referred to it as a frenemy relationship. Um,
Yeah.
Now we've talked to Kelly in her exit interview and stuff like that. So, what do you feel like set off that frenemy relationship with you and Kelly?
Oh, just I find it really difficult to talk about Kel because I know that she's
Hmm.
coming from a good place and it's all harmless stuff, but she is very, 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 very difficult to spend time with. Like
Mhm.
it's exhausting and she's borderline rude and doesn't think before she says things. She was calling me some pretty nasty things, but not like again, all coming from a good place.
Mhm.
Um, I tried to offer up at one point a spot close to the fire because she was complaining about being cold, and she said she didn't want to take that.
Mhm.
But then would make inroads to like get frustrated throughout it. But all in all, like she's Kelly. People have been saying they want to see us in the Amazing Race. I think it would be entertaining for Australia, but I just don't think I can handle it, man. I really don't, eh? Like it's just so much. And because she's got this psychologist thing, she's a psychologist. She thinks in her reality, and I guess it's true in her reality. She's the know-it-all. Like she knows everything, and she wants
Mhm.
to put that on to everybody else. And it's just not the case, man. It's just exhausting. I find it difficult to talk about, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't want to be like rude, but I also want to be honest. And yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I appreciate that. And you know, what I appreciated about both you and Kelly too is, you know, you could tell you guys weren't necessarily getting along, but you know, you made it work. You seemed
Oh,
cordial, you know.
we put up with each other, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And like if I
absolutely.
saw her at the pub, we'd sit and have a beer, and then I'd probably leave after 15 minutes. But, yeah,
That's good. What I want to see you and Simon on the Amazing Race together. He was my winner pick last year. You this year. Let's go.
Simon,
Let's go.
Simo, if you're listening to this, mate, let's put an application. I'd be all for that, 100%. I've also had a couple of tweets come through saying I'd be good on the challenge. I didn't even know about the challenge,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna have to watch that. But that sounds like something that I'd really be into. So I might even chuck an application in for that one. But
Yeah.
Simo, that's I like what Alex just said there. Let's do it, mate.
That's good. I'll take 10% of your winnings. All right. Is my
Yeah,
idea.
I
Perfect.
think it goes to charity, so I don't think you'll be getting any
Oh,
of it. But
never mind.
we
Yeah.
can
Yeah. That's
we can donate 10% to one of your charities. If you
deal. Deal. All right, Alex, last question for you real quick here at the end. We always like to
Hit me.
ask, you know, we know it's an edited TV show. Not everything can be shown. Did you have any favorite moments or memorable experiences out there that we didn't get to see that you want to share with us?
Yeah, the biggest one, man, would be the letters. It's
Mhm.
on 10 play. So people have seen it. Very emotional sort of moment that I was just spewing, didn't make the cut. Like every season that I've seen of Survivor, it's been there. And at the auction, people don't even know this because it wasn't in the segment on 10 play, but I was just bidding against Caroline for these letters, and I said, I need this love right now. So
Mhm.
I ended up bidding. I think it was like $400 for my letter. It was just for my letter, and then Jonathan gave me the option to give up the rest of my money to buy everyone else's, and it was a no-brainer. Like, of course you do that. So gave up the rest of the money, and I hadn't eaten for a few days at this point. I think it was because oh no, sorry, that was when we went to merge in the idol. I hadn't eaten for about 3 or 4 days, but still, you're not eating much at
Mhm.
all, and I was starving. And I wanted to, get the letters, obviously. And then it was such a heartfelt moment. Everyone got to read them out, and like just getting to hear from your family. My baby nephew was born while I was out there, so I
Oh,
hadn't met
wow.
him. I hadn't seen anything about like photos and if Courtney was out. That's my brother's wife. Whether she was all good, and hadn't heard anything. And then to see a photo of him like in the hospital and my girlfriend May, like it was just
Mhm.
oh man, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And like I would have loved for Australia to see that side of me. That was it was a bit of a shame really. But what can
Yeah,
you do? Gameplay is more important, I guess. The
absolutely.
Furby, the Furby had to play the Furby a bit more.
Yeah, well, the video is great. I've seen it online. The
Thank
video
you,
is
man.
great.
Thank you. Yeah,
Well, Alex, thank you so much for your time today, man. It was a blast to root for you this season. Proud you were on
I
Team
appreciate
Alex. You know,
it.
excited to watch you from the jury. Hope we get a chance to catch up with you after the season.
100%, man. I'd love that. I really appreciate this, and thank you so much for your time, buddy. Cheers.